Hey there, everyone. We're going to go through some simple Mendelian genetics problems today. These were the practice problems that you were assigned in class. So hopefully you had a chance to start them and kind of walk through them. So when we're doing genetics problems, there's a bunch of terminology that we need to be familiar with, and we need to be familiar with the process to go through solving these problems. So first thing, when you are given a problem to solve, you need to know what the alleles are. So defining the alleles in a problem is very, very important. So the letters that are used to represent those alleles should be identified with that trait. So in this example, we're going to talk about pea plants, and we're going to say the big T, capitalized T, is for a tall plant, and the lowercase t is for a short plant. Once you have that information, we try to identify what the parents' genotypes are. So we list the parents' genotypes, and then we determine which genes or alleles are going to be passed along to their offspring. And we list those down as the second step in solving a Punnett square. Once you know what the alleles are, we can set up the cross and complete the cross. So in this case, we're crossing two heterozygous tall plants. So we set up the Punnett square by indicating a big T from one of the parents and a little t from the same parent on one side of our Punnett square, and we do the opposite for the other parent. We then solve our Punnett square by simply taking this T allele and combining it with this T allele to get a possible genotype of big T. We do the same thing again. This big T combines with this small t to get a big T, little t combination. And we repeat this for the entire Punnett square. One thing to keep in mind, we like to list the dominant allele before the recessive allele. And when you have two recessive alleles, it doesn't matter the order. So when we're all done, then we want to read the cross and determine the percentages of either the genotypes or the phenotypes. So in reading this particular cross, we're going to determine the percentages of tall and short plants. What we found was that a big T combination is going to produce a tall plant. So 1 out of 4 will be big T, and we see that 2 out of the 4 are going to be big T, little t, which still produce a tall plant. So in total, 3 of our 4 possibilities are going to be tall. 3 out of 4 is 75%, so we identify that as one of our outcomes. 75% of the plants are going to be tall, and 25%, which are little t, are going to be our short plant. So we then list our possibilities over here on the side of the problem. So this is just a simple Mendelian genetics problem where you have to go through and solve for the question that's being asked. So here we have a bunch of examples that you were asked to complete using different traits that Mendel proved in his pea plant experiment. So the first one that we're going to look at, it says in pea plants, yellow peas are dominant over green peas. So we want to make sure we know what the alleles are, and we want to define them. So before you set up the Punnett square, go through and let's say big Y is going to be yellow. So we know what that is. It's always nice to have this. And then the little y is going to be green. So let's list those out. So we now know what our alleles are. We also need to know what the parents are. So in this example, we know that the parents are going to be yellow, big Y, little y, and it's crossed with a homozygous green plant, which is little y, little y. So once we know the parents, we can figure out what alleles are going to be passed along, and then we can set up our Punnett square. So our Punnett square can be set up in a grid similar to this, and we list the parents' alleles along the top. So one of the parents is passing along a big Y and a little y, and the other parent, the green one, can only pass along a small y combination. So then we go through and solve it, and we can find out there's a big Y, little y combination, a little y, big Y with a little y, and a little y combination. And then we look back at what the question is asking, and we want to know what the phenotype percentages are. So the phenotypers are what we can actually see. So we have to look at the genotypes, and we can see that these two right here, 2 out of 4, have the dominant allele, so they are going to be yellow. So 2 out of 4 is 50%. So we're going to identify 50% being yellow, which gives us 2 homozygous recessive individuals. Those 50% are going to be green. So this is what we would expect you to have for your answer for that type of problem. Let's go on to problem number 2. In pea plants, white flowers, dominant F allele, are dominant over purple flowers, which is the lowercase f. So use a Punnett square to predict the phenotype percentages of the cross between 2 plants heterozygous. We need to know the heterozygous parents for white flowers. So again, let's define these. Even though they're described in the question, let's make sure we write out what the big F represents. And we know that big F is the trait for white, and the little f is for purple. And now we have to go through and figure out what the parent phenotypes are. So we're crossing 2 plants heterozygous for white flowers. So heterozygous means they have 2 different alleles, a big F and a little f, and both parents are the same. So we're crossing a big F and a little f with a big F and a little f. We can now set up our Punnett square and solve this problem. So both alleles separate, and we can list those across the top and the bottom of our Punnett square, and we can solve the cross. And so what we can find out is what type of flowers are going to be produced in this type of cross. So again, what are my phenotypic percentages? Well, I find out that anyone with a big F is going to be white. So 1, 2, 3 of them are going to be white, which gives me a percentage of 75% white, and 25% are going to be purple flowers. Pretty simple, right? Good. Let's go on to the next one. In pea plants, small plants are dominant over short. Use a Punnett square to predict the chance of producing a short plant with a cross between a tall plant and a short plant. So again, let's define these. Big T is for tall, little t is for short, and we have a tall plant parent cross with a short plant. So big T cross with a little t. We can set up our cross, and we can go through and solve this. So some of you might be able to predict, well, obviously if there's 2 dominant alleles in the parent, every single offspring is going to receive a dominant allele, which is good for you to predict and think in your head, but it's always nice for you to show off your work. And we're again asking here, what are the chances of producing a short plant? So a short plant would need to have 2 recessive alleles, and based upon this particular cross, even though one of the parents was a shorty, you cannot have a short offspring plant. So there's a 0% chance of producing a short plant. All right, number 4 in pea plants, round peas, dominant S, are dominant over wrinkled peas, lowercase s. Use a Punnett square to predict the chance of having wrinkled pea plants with a cross between 2 plants, heterozygous or round peas. So again, starting by defining what your trait is. So big S is for round seeds, and little s, I'm going to do a cursive S so I don't mistake big and lowercase s's. So my lowercase s is wrinkled. So my cross is between 2 parents that are heterozygous for round peas. So my cross is simply big S, little s, with a big S and a little s. So I can set this up and go back to my cursive S so you can see the difference when I write them side by side. And we're going to find out that there's going to be lowercase s, there's going to be a chance that they do produce a wrinkled seed, and it's this guy down here. So my chance of producing a wrinkled pea plant is 1 out of 4, or 25% chance of producing a wrinkled right, we got one more problem to solve using some of Mendel's work with pea plants. So again, here we go. In pea plants, a smooth pea pod is dominant over a constricted pea pod. So we define our trait. It's given to us with the letters L. So we're going to use big L is for a smooth pea pod, and our lowercase l is going to be for a constricted pea pod. And it tells us we are crossing a parent with a constricted pea pod and a homozygous smooth pea pod. So big L crossed with a little l. We set up our Punnett square. Again, most of you should be able to predict what we're going to find here because both this parent is homozygous dominant. That means every single offspring they produce will be a heterozygous. And since they're all heterozygous, they all contain the dominant allele. So that means they have a 100% chance of a smooth coated pea pod. There you go. 5 simple Mendelian genetics problems. So most of your work so far has been dealing with Mendel's pea plants. So the next practice set was dealing with some other common simple traits. So when I say simple, these are traits that either show up in 1 or 2 forms. Not all traits are going to be in just 2 variations. We will start to see some traits will show up in 3 or 4 different variations because there's different methods that genes are inherited. So let's read through this one together. In boxes, red coat color is determined by the dominant gene, big R. So it's defining our trait for us in the question. Silverback is a coat color determined by the recessive little r allele. I'm still going to write this out. Big R is for a red coat, and my little r is for the silver black coat. So it just helps you having those alleles defined in front of you so you can see them when you are solving this type of problem. So a homozygous dominant red male is crossed with a silver black female. So the parents' genotypes for this problem is homozygous dominant red, big R, and the female is little r, silver black. So what's the genotype of the female? Little r, and what's the genotype of the male? We just said is homozygous dominant for red, so we are putting a big R there. So we're still going to complete this cross. So the red male alleles are big R, the female is little r. So we're going to produce 4 genotypic offspring that have a big R and a little r combined. So to answer our questions, what are the genotype percentages of their offspring? We have 100% chance of producing the genotype big R, little r. What are the phenotype percentages of the offspring? Every one of these will be red. Getting the hang of this? Hopefully. They're going to get more challenging as we keep moving through this. The next question, it says, use the Punnett square below to show the results of the cross between 2 of the offspring from the cross above. So our offspring were heterozygous. So the genotypes of both parents, we're going to say are big R and a little r. And so if we set up our Punnett square, we've seen some like this before with Mendel's pea plants, so we can figure out the probability and the chance of producing red or the silver black coat color. So what are the genotype percentages of the offspring from the above cross? Since we have 3 different genotypes, we're going to list all of them, and we want to list them as percentages. So there's a 25% chance of producing a genotype big R. There is a 2 out of 4 chance, or a 50% chance of producing a heterozygote, which is big R, little r, and then there's a 25% chance of producing a lowercase r and a lowercase r. What's the phenotype percentages of the offspring from the above cross? Well, the phenotypes, again, are based upon these genotypes, and we know that if they have a big R, they are going to be red. So 75% or 3/4 will produce a red coat, whereas 1 out of 4, this one right there, is going to produce the silver black coat. So 25% may have the silver black coat option. All right, next problem. Deal with earlobes. So let's read through a couple questions with earlobes. And this is kind of true for your ears. You can check if you have free earlobes or attached earlobes. But one of the things we do know is that the dominant allele is for free earlobes and the recessive is for attached earlobes. So if you have a homozygous dominant free earlobe man who marries a woman with attached earlobes, what are the chances of getting the following? So again, let's first off write out our parents' genotypes. We already defined our alleles up here, so we don't have to rewrite those out like we've been doing in all the other problems. But we have a homozygous dominant male. So we're going to say big F is the male, and cross with a woman who has attached earlobes. So the only way you can have attached earlobes is by being homozygous recessive. So let's complete our punnett square. Big F, little f, and we can solve it, and we would find out that every single potential offspring will contain at least one dominant allele. So how many homozygous dominant free earlobe offspring? Can they produce a homozygous dominant one? They can't. None of them are homozygous dominant, so there's a 0% chance of that occurring. A heterozygous free earlobe. Heterozygous means a big F and a little f, and if we look carefully, this was a big F, by the way, we see that there's a 100% chance that this cross would produce all heterozygotes. And then what about the probability of an attached earlobe offspring? Well, can they produce any of those? Nope. So even though mom had attached earlobes, none of her children can, because dad was homozygous dominant for them. So now let's take a look at number 8. So if you have a heterozygous free earlobe man, so heterozygous means it has 2 different alleles. So heterozygous means we're going to be dealing with a big F and a little f dad who marries an attached earlobe mom. So attached earlobes, remember, is little f. Little f, what are the chances of getting a homozygous free earlobe offspring? So let's do our cross again. Big F, little f, and we can find out that there is no possible way that they can produce a homozygous free earlobe individual. So homozygous free earlobes means that they would need to have 2 big Fs. None of them can produce 2 big Fs, so it's a 0% chance. Any kind of free earlobe offspring, so in order to be a free earlobe, they just need to have the dominant allele for having a free earlobe, and we can see that there is a dominant allele here, dominant allele there, so 2 out of 4 is a 50% chance. All right, thanks for following through with me today. We're almost done getting through these practice Mendelian genetics problems. So the next one, in cattle, the polled condition is dominant to a horn condition, letter H. A male calf is born with horns, yet both his parents have no horns. What's the genotype of the calf? Well, so let's first off define our traits again. Big F is going to be the wrong letter, so it's given the H. So H is going to be our dominant allele for no horns, and our lowercase h is going to be the trait for horns. So what is the genotype of the calf? If they have a calf, the only way they can have a calf with horns, it must be lowercase h. The father, since the father had, what did it say, a male calf is born with horns, yet both parents have no horns. So that means the father must have been heterozygous. The mother must have been heterozygous as well. So neither parent had horns, so they must both have a dominant allele, and there's a chance that they produce a child or a calf with horns, because any of the other options will not produce horned cattle. So this is the only one right there that can produce it. So the question then is, if this calf were later made into a cow whose genotype was big H, little h, what's the chance that they have an offspring that has horns? So if we were to figure that out, we could easily go through it and do a Punnett square where we can take big H, little h with the horned calf, and we would find out that there is a chance that they produce a calf with horns. So we would be able to set this Punnett square up and solve it quickly, and we would see that, oh, there's a 50% chance that they produce a child with, or a calf with horns. All right, a rare blue flowered plant was accidentally pollinated by pollen from a common white flowered plant of the same species. All of the offspring of this cross were white flowered. So what color was recessive? So since the white ones mask the blue ones, the recessive trait must be the blue colored variation. So knowing that, we can define our trait with a big F being white, and our lowercase f is going to be the blue trait. So what was the genotype of all of the offspring? So it's asking for a genotype, so we want to write the alleles down. So all of the offspring from that cross must be big F with a little f, since they were all white, even though they were bred with a blue flower. So using the Punnett square below, show how to produce another blue flowered plant from the white offspring of this cross. Well, if you wanted to get a blue one, you need to end up having two recessive alleles. So the only way you can do that is by taking a white heterozygous individual and crossing it with another white heterozygous individual. And by doing this particular cross, we will find out that there is a 25% chance again of getting a blue offspring. So 25% will be blue. There you have it. Hopefully it's starting to make sense and you follow through, and hopefully you now know how to do a Punnett square.